I asked my subscribers to share their best theories about how One Piece will end, and it got really wild, with the ideas I picked for today ranging from absolutely crazy to hilarious to just absolutely mind-blowing. Will Luffy marry Nami in the end? Has Luffy been in a coma all along, or is everyone in One Piece actually trapped inside a giant simulation started all the way back in the Void Century, and is the One Piece itself the admin key granting complete control over the world and the power to rewrite the program? And this absolutely wild sounding idea was submitted by Somya from India, our first theorist today. And as you'll see in a sec, it has a bunch of moving parts, so I will try to do it justice. According to them, it's going to be revealed on Love Tale that the entire world of One Piece is just a living simulation created by an ancient civilization, the one that Joy Boy is from, predating the Void Century. Now, this ancient civilization was researching the concept of dreams and how they could manifest as reality within a controlled environment. Which, hey, as far as we know, nothing says that this isn't actually the case in the story. So they're actually off to a really strong start here, I think, and maybe this is even where Vegapunk got his devil fruits are the dreams of the past idea from as well. Next, we then discovered that the One Piece is not a traditional treasure, but it's actually the admin key to that simulation. Which then means that the Void Century actually represents when that simulation was initially created, and the world government's true purpose is actually maintaining the illusion of this simulated world, all in one big effort to prevent complete chaos. And if this were actually the case, this would of course cause the crew and obviously Luffy to have a really big choice to make in the end. Use the One Piece key to shut down the simulation and return everyone to the harsh reality outside, which is a desolate dystopian world, or continue living inside the simulation where dreams can become reality like devil fruits, but at the cost of your own freedom and knowledge of the true world. And since Luffy in the end believes in freedom, he battles the world government, manipulating the very fabric of the simulated reality, bending space, time, and physical laws with the power of his sun god devil fruit. According to this theory, next they break the fourth wall a bunch, realize that everyone on the crew has a real-life freedom fighter on the outside that represents them, and it becomes the sort of Persona 5 meets the Matrix-style new universe exploration series towards the end. Now, this one is absolutely amazing, and while there are some breadcrumbs here and there that might hint at that, there isn't a ton of evidence pointing towards it, but hey, it also means nothing is proven wrong yet. So way to shoot for the stars with this one. Also, quick aside before we get into the second one, thanks so much for everyone who submitted your ideas. We had over 300 submissions, and picking just a handful was super difficult, so keep on theorizing, you're all killing it. And honestly, I think we should kind of keep the sci-fi fun going here, because luckily Kashimo from Japan has the perfect next theory for us, because their idea is that the One Piece is a device that lets the crew travel the multiverse. Maybe they were playing Jump Force or watching Rick and Morty when they come up with this idea, but I am loving it. Essentially, they think that the true history of the world is one of multiverse hopping pirates, world government seeking to control that very power, and closing the gates to infinity. And with this power, Imu or Luffy would be able to destroy or create entire worlds. And let's be real with the entire Marvel thing and the way One Piece is going, the idea of bouncing around different universes and worlds basically isn't all too crazy, and as they point out in their submission as well, it would explain why so many different fantastical creatures, genres of fiction, and time periods are all clashing between all the different islands on the Grand Line. You know, things how like Wano is a feudal Japanese society compared to then Egghead Island, an island from the literal future, or how dragons, long ring longland creatures, and giants all exist at the same time. All of them are actually fragments from this multiversal part of history, all merging on the Grand Line, remaining on the key world that we know and love today. Now, we've covered already two pretty out there but also pretty cool ideas so far, but there is still plenty more to come. And don't worry, the last one is one that I personally actually think might very possibly happen, and I think could be the actual ending of the story. But before we cover any of that, I want to take a quick detour away from Luffy, the Sun Gods, and what the One Piece is, because our next One Piece ending theory from Radya from the UK is all about our moss-haired swordsman, Roronoa Zoro. Now, I gotta be honest, when I first started reading this one, I thought, oh man, this is pretty solid, nothing too crazy, and then by the end of reading through it, I genuinely think if Oda did this or does something even similar that I'll suggest at the end of this video, it would be the perfect end to Zoro's story that will also probably cost him like 85% of his fans. Here's what it is. This ending occurs after Zoro slices down Mihawk and claims the title of World's Greatest Swordsman. But after the dust settles, Zoro doesn't go back to Shimotsuki village, nor does he try to roam the world searching for new challengers. Instead, he gets very lost, of course, but then eventually finds Emporio Ivankov. And yep, next up, Zoro simply requests to become a woman, honoring Kuina and proving that she could have actually become the world's greatest swordswoman as well. It's a final act of tribute and dedication to his friend that really warms the heart. Now, I gotta say, this theory also says that he'll then go on to marry Sanji, and well, I mean, it is an idea, that's for sure. I actually think he'll take Tashigi under his wings so that she can then cut him down, taking his title and proving Kuina's goal double, but hey, I mean, Femme Zoro rules as well, I guess. Pretty out there theory, but that's what we're here for. And while we're talking about love, we have to quickly talk about a really classic theory from the user Big Tony M, located in Indiana in the US. Now, he didn't have too much to say about this one, but he wanted everyone to know that Luffy and Nami, they're actually getting married at the end of the story once Luffy discovers his very romantic side after becoming Pirate King. Which, to be fair, is not that unreasonable. I mean, it would be in classic shonen fashion, but I'm still pretty skeptical about this one since Oda has gone officially on record to say that the Straw Hats are far more family-oriented as a group. So really, the only thing that Luffy would probably marry is a big chunk of meat. But now, before we get to the super crazy stuff at the end of this video you guys came up with, we've still got a few really other awesome ones to go through as well, including now my personal favorites, Whale Piece. Now, in case you don't know, whales are actually surprisingly important in One Piece, and they have a tendency to appear in connection with Laugh Tale as well, like the poneglyph inside the whale tree on Zou leading to the last island, the Straw Hats getting the log pose and hearing about Laugh Tale for the very first time from Crocus and Laboon, or even a pod of whales appearing in this panel when the Straw Hats enter the New World. But Noah Laroe from the US of A has an even bigger theory, no pun intended here, and that's because he thinks that Luffy will literally become a whale using his mind-bending Nika powers and then level the Grand Line alongside with Laboon. Afterwards, the whales will then carry everyone to space where they live happily ever after, looking down upon the All Blue. And Noah himself actually summed up the theory pretty perfectly with his last line right here. Whales are cool. I mean, Jinbei is a whale shark, Jinbei helped Luffy at his lowest, and Jinbei will help the world at its lowest as well. How poetic. Moving on, we have yet another one of my favorite submissions from this list, so shout out to Pigeon Legion, which is definitely your real name, right, for suggesting an idea that I think a ton of people would absolutely love to come true. Instead of the One Piece being revealed at the end, it will simply be a panel from Oda writing, "You want the treasure? You can have it, because I've left everything I've gathered in one place. Now you just have to go out and find it yourself. The end. Good luck in your new world." Essentially, they do believe that Oda himself is going to create the great pirate era in real life, inspiring the entire world to go on a manhunt to uncover the real-life One Piece and accidentally also cause a mass global dilemma in the process as well. Fun fact, the creator of Gravity Falls, Alex Hirsch, actually did something quite similar, and it turned out to be a super fun ARG that the fanbase absolutely loved. And for all of you who aren't game theory fans and have no idea what an ARG actually is, it stands for Alternate Reality Game and involves adding elements of our real world to complete your own storytelling. You know, for example, Oda using websites to hide clues, phone numbers you can actually call on your phone, or even hiding objects and things in the real world that you have to find to complete the story. And come on, the idea of all of us getting to roam around the world trying to find Oda's hidden secret is just an amazing idea. But now our next one is a little bit similar, with Miguel from Brazil thinking that the One Piece will actually just be an empty chest with a note in it stating that you think that I'd make it that easy for you, ultimately meaning that the entire journey that Roger set everyone on was actually based on a huge lie. Now, interestingly enough, this theory actually has some good evidence for it. I mean, Gaimon's entire arc implies a very similar thing could happen towards the end. I'm referring to the end of his story, where all of the treasure that he's been trying to get to for years ended up being a bunch of empty treasure chests on a hill. Which is super interesting because if this is actually true, Luffy and Roger's goal of crushing the world government are based on literally nothing. All of it would be due to a massive fake treasure hunt, and honestly, I can sort of get behind the idea. I mean, it's a very the One Piece is the friends we made along the way type of story, and while Oda said that the One Piece isn't a pure concept, an empty treasure chest sure does count as a physical item, at least in theory. Surprisingly, I find this one oddly satisfying, so instead now let's talk about a theory that might be a little bit more controversial. And I mean, come on, you knew that this one was gonna come, so thanks to King Serdar for submitting the One Piece is a dream theory. Now, in his specific version of the story, right after Luffy becomes the king of the pirates, we find out that he has actually been in a coma ever since chapter 1. Even though Shanks saved him, the trauma from Lord of the Coast put him in a permanent coma. And everything that we've seen ever since, just a young boy's strong imagination. And when he wakes up, Luffy no longer wants to be the king of the pirates, all because he already did it all just inside of his dreams. The will of D in this case would be quite literal. It's his will inside of his own dreams, and Oda building all this mystery around it was him constantly teasing the idea that nothing that we've been reading has actually been real. Now, this really interesting version of the theory, which kind of takes place in the One Piece world but then makes it not happen in a weird way, then goes on to state that the GOAT, Buggy the Clown, actually ends up becoming Pirate King. Every crew member has actually died except for Jinbei and Brook because they're still in Impel Down and floating around Thriller Bark, which I guess is a bit dark and sad, but I guess still an option. So I do respect your commitment to the bit here, Sarah, because I mean, let's be real, someone had to submit that one. Now, all of these theories so far are really something else, to say the least, and I promise that the last one is really, really interesting, tying up a loose end I know a lot of us are waiting for in a truly symbolic and important way. But before we get to that one, I wanted to shout out Avery from Canada because you had a really amazing idea for the ending, and I just had to share it here as well. Because she thinks that the One Piece treasure is literally something that defies the One Piece world. Something that's ridiculous and subverts everyone's expectation, which is why she makes the crazy claim that the One Piece is actually food. Yum. I mean, it kind of ties in nicely with Luffy's major goal during Wano. After all, he really just wanted to make sure that Tama had enough food. And Avery also pointed out nicely that Wano is the same arc that we find out about Luffy's and Roger's true dreams. And so Avery believes that it's this connection that proves that their goal is to feed the entire world and no one ever needs to be hungry again. Since if there was no hunger, Luffy would have no problem. And it's also a theme constantly touched upon in different One Piece arc like Whole Cake Island or even the Baratie. And I mean, in a way, it's even Sanji's whole gimmick and arc as well if you really think about it. Not to mention that food is actually one of the biggest plot points in Yamato's cover story, between her pot of Odin showing off the food stalls and the emphasis on showing how Wano is thriving after Luffy's intervention. It's pretty clear that food is a way bigger factor than we all already thought it was in the story. So I really like this one. It's goofy, it makes sense, and it's got a bit of evidence to back it up as well, so keep up your good work here, Avery. And while all of the theories so far were absolutely amazing, this one really blew me away from both a creativity and evidence standpoint as well. So thank you, Charles Holland from Tennessee, for submitting this super cool idea about Luffy and the sun. To put it bluntly, he believes that after the final big war, One Piece ends with Luffy becoming the sun. Now, the first part of evidence for this theory comes from something that we've discussed previously in another theory, because we do know that Luffy's body really struggles based on his gear powers and all of the damage that he has to endure. I mean, Kuma and Zoro's nothing happened moment is an amazing piece of evidence for this. Nobody can properly handle the level of pain Luffy does every single fight, and it's going to catch up to him at some point as well. And so in this theory, Luffy ends up sick and dying due to the overuse of Gear 5 and his Devil Fruit powers alike. And despite his best efforts, Chopper also can't heal him. All seems to be lost until a long-forgotten god comes down from space with the right cure. It's the Art Maxime carrying God Enel who swoops down and grabs Luffy. Enel then goes on to tell the world about the Sun God's true origins that he discovered on the moon and how Nika and the Sky Races came down from the heavens over 1,000 years ago, bringing the eternal flame, the raw power of the sun itself, to the ancient kingdom. And so the only way to now save Luffy is to bring him to the source of his own power, the world's power, the sun itself. And so Enel sets the arc on a path for the sun, granting Luffy the strength and life that he needs. Which is just such a cool idea, with the most unrealistic part of this being that Enel had a change of heart while chilling up on the moon, I guess. And it's not until years later that he then returns to die among his friends. The crew shows him everything they have done in his absence, not knowing that he's been watching them this entire time with a huge smile on his face. Because in the end, Luffy granted them his one last wish, a real chance at true freedom. And honestly, yes, it is a little bit out there, but I also think that there's a lot of merit here, because Charles wanted to point out in his own theory that there are a bunch of space references in all of One Piece. There's the model of a solar system on Ohara, the naming scheme of the Gorosei, and of course Enel's journey to the moon, something that teases a lot of things about the Mother Flame, the Sky Races, and Sun God Nika. And also, how fitting would it be for Luffy to become the sunshine, the literal dawn for a new era? Maybe even the romance dawns? Huh? But if your thirst for theories has not been stilled quite yet, I'm going to share one of my theories that talks about a lot of the points you guys have brought up here as well. It's got epic battles, sun gods, brotherhoods, and even some whales as well. So check out this 1,000-year One Piece theory below me, because I'm sure it will blow your mind by revealing the secrets that Oda-sensei is hiding in plain sight, with the strings that have been pulling events for the One Piece world for over 1,000 years. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much for everyone who submitted their ideas. I actually went through and read every single one of them, and some of you guys just have the best imagination and a really good sense for theory crafting. Otherwise, if you want to support stuff like this, want to get early updates or early access to polls or, submissions like this, go hop over to Patreon, where you can support the channel, but also get a bunch of really cool and exclusive perks as well, and it really helps us make better videos like these as well. Thanks so much, and I will see you in the next one.